everyone, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Grateful Not Greedy podcast. My name is Kris, and I am here with my all-season, all-terrain, all-ready co-host, and her name is
Rachel. Hi, Kris.
Hello, Rachel. So, Rach, Season 2 is upon us, which means that Season 1 has concluded. And I just want to thank any and all who have listened to us through what, for me at least, has been a very significant growth period. I will say these seasons are not small. They're not short. It's been a significant amount of time to go through an entire Season 1 of a weekly podcast. And I will just say for myself, thank you, Rach, for being here with me every week, because we make a little bit of progress every week. And as anyone who's following along with us, you can see every little piece adds up to a bigger completion. So with that, I will just say thank you to you as we embark on Season 2. And do you have any little thoughts about Season 1 or your reflections before we move on and start into Season 2?
Sure. I remember when you came up with this idea of doing this, and I was like, don't know if I can do that. And, I remember you saying, we just start. That's all. You just have to start. And that was such a good lesson for me, because I don't think I'd ever be prepared for this. Like, there's no preparation.
That's
So you
so
just have
true.
to jump in. And it was an important lesson, not just in this, but in many other things. And I can't believe we've made it to here. I'm actually very impressed that
Same.
we did it. And I'm excited because I do agree. I have grown a lot, and a lot of the growth is from doing these and then also listening to them after, which is very,
Agreed.
very helpful.
I agree with that.
So
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because even in preparing for Season 2, what we have done is gone back and done a few re-releases from our Season 1, some memorable episodes and episodes that were very impactful, at least to me and to some other, people who've reflected for me. So that's actually a really good tip, is even if you're just joining us now for Season 2, or you could only pick up, a topic here and there, going back to Season 1, it's all fresh. It's all as relevant today as it was the day that we recorded it, right? I mean, and I definitely re-listen to them. I get a lot out of them. And we also need to be reminded, because we're all in process. We're all in process of growth, or of checking ourselves, or checking in on ourselves, or, being accountable in all these different ways. So I agree with you. That is a very, very fruitful exercise for sure.
yes. Yeah, it
So
really is.
on we go. Season 2. So, as we're going into Season 2, Rach, I know you wanted to talk about something, but of course I
Yes.
also talk about something. But why don't you tell me? I think you and I might kind of have some of the same thoughts that we want to bring up, because what we have here now is the conclusion of one piece and the beginning of a new. And what is that all about? And how do we kind of incorporate that? So why don't you start us off and give us an idea of what you're thinking about?
Yeah, I think there's something interesting about humans in general, and I'm in this group of humans, that when something is coming to an end, it almost becomes more valuable. And it
Mm,
becomes like you want to get as much out of it, whether it's like the end of summer, my
mhm.
son's last year in high school, whether it's like, right before the holidays, like whatever it is, it just seems all of a sudden then you're like, oh my gosh, this is really important, or critical to pay attention, or I want to get all the goodness from it. And I was speaking in class the other day, and I was like, I don't know why we do that, because we know there's an end date for everything. Some things we know the end date, some things we don't.
Those are we
But
don't, right?
we know when summer starts, we know it'll come to an end. But at the end of summer, you're like, I got to get all these things in. And I was like, well, I could have got like it. Why does that urgency hit at the end?
Yes.
And how, it fits into the Grateful Not Greedy framework so beautifully, because the idea of gratitude is like, it's always present. It's there. And the greedy part is like cramming it in, like trying to do it all, everything, all of that. And I think there's a little bit for me, this like greediness. I was just on a trip, and it's like the trip was coming to an end. I was like, we got to get it all done, And
Right.
just
One
like,
more day, 2 more
yeah.
hours.
Uh,
Yeah,
exactly. And,
yeah.
and here I am stepping into my son's senior year. And I was like, oh, I want to be home for this and I need to be present for that and all this stuff. And they were like, I've known high school is 4 years long from the beginning. I'm
We
like,
all sometimes 5,
yeah,
sometimes 3,
sometimes
I don't
five, sometimes three, you never know. But in general, and why is it that senior year should be more valuable than freshman, than
Right,
sophomore, than junior?
right.
And
Yes.
and it's in the intrinsic value that we place on it or I place on it. And it made me think and stop. I'm like, I don't want to make everything a big deal this year because
Yes.
it's another year. Like he was just like, yeah, no big deal. And I'm like, but it is. And then I was like, is it really? It is just
Is
another
it
year.
right? Mhm.
Right? And so where does that come from? And what does that give us if we get in that mindset? And what does that take from us when we get in that mindset?
Yeah,
So
'cause what you
that's
bring
my
up is yeah, what you bring up is so relevant too, even just thinking about it, summer's a great example, right? Because we're ending the summer, and there is all it's almost like the grateful not greedy lens is really, really important here because the temptation is for almost to have that pang of disappointment that it's over, you didn't do
yeah.
enough, or how did you miss going to that concert, or you missed seeing that friend, or you didn't, this is the first year that we haven't done a whole family vacation or a whole family by design this year because, my kids are just the ages that they are, it's just not gonna happen like that anymore, it's just we can't assume that I can't assume that I'm gonna control every little schedule and map out their lives and put it in a certain direction. So even like you're saying, like when it's happening, that this is that I know that I'm not gonna take a family vacation, right? And I'm still trying to like piece it together. Well, maybe I could just get these 3 together. Maybe I can just get those 4 together. Maybe it can be this day and extend it into this day. And I think the larger point here is accepting that time is finite. Time is finite, right? Whether we agree with it or not, it is, and that's whether you're coming to the end of anything, and whether you know that it's coming to an end or not, in my estimation, it's a better play to act as though it is, right?
Yeah.
Because if we have this tendency to think like, "Oh," almost like we're in kindergarten, like, "Life goes this goes on forever," or like, "Oh, we can finger paint for our whole lives, and it's gonna be amazing," and like, no time, no function of time. You tend then to like you're saying, maybe put your focus in an area that is not fruitful for you. We always talk about what serves you and what you're going to pay attention to. And something that was really relevant to me, even just today, I had a girlfriend ask me, she's going on a trip. She's like, "Do you think I should do?" Obviously I travel a lot. So she's like, "Do you think I should do an extra day here or an extra day there?" And my response, Rach, was, "Well, it depends on what you want to remember about this vacation. Because you're saying another day here, and this is the tropical beach, beautiful setting." And I said, I can almost guarantee you're not going to remember the extra day, but it's going to be beautiful while you're there. But you're not going to remember it because it's just going to be one more day of, in paradise. However, this other side of your trip, you're gonna have this extra day, and you're gonna do this little thing that I'm gonna tell you about that you can do, and you're definitely gonna remember that, but it's not gonna it's just gonna be a different what are you trying to get? What are you gonna remember? Do you wanna remember? Like, what are you trying to create? And I think that it was, like, even just in talking about it, a very helpful lesson to be intentional even in the moment as things are coming to an end. Things are coming to an end, well, every end has a new beginning, right? So what's the intention here for the ending? And we're also on a continuum. Always. We're always on a continuum. So even when we classify it as an ending, obviously summer is an ending, but it's not seasons still go on, things still continue to happen. So I think even as we're talking about it now and it's kind of coming forward to me, I also had the end of an era with a senior in high school, the end of an era with a senior in college, and you start looking at those time frames and you say, well, in some ways, those, like you said, are arbitrary time frames. And what do you want? What's the general, which I feel like in season one, we did a pretty good job for identifying this for ourselves. What is the general feeling that we want to be having for this time frame?
Mm,
whatever
that's a good
time
point.
frame this is, right? So, like, as you
Right.
experience the senior year for your son, how do you want to what memories do you wanna put in there? How do you wanna look back on it and remember it for yourself? How do you want him to remember it vis-a-vis you and all those things? And that the intentionality is really probably what I'm getting to on this time thing because even when you start a vacation, it's not about the intention of, "Oh, I'm gonna do this excursion, that excursion, these things, these are all relevant." It's what is the feeling I'm generating, and I feel like that this is an area that you're so good at. Of what feeling do I wanna generate out of the time that I have?
Yeah, well, and it's also I think the other piece is, I look at this point of where my son is right now that, um, he's like, when you put something in the oven and you bake it and it's done baking, like, you know, you
Oh,
can't you can't, like, once it's done baking,
unbake
you
it.
can't, like, unbake it. You can't stick
Right,
it in the oven and rebake it. Like, I mean, you
right.
can warm it, but, like, he's kind of baked. Like, he's fully baked now. And so, like, I don't know what I'm trying to cram
Yes.
into a fully baked cake that
Right,
actually looks really good and smells
right.
great, like all the things. And there's that piece of me that I'm like, but then I've told myself that, you say, what do you want in this year? And I was like, I actually want to enjoy this baked cake. Like,
Yes.
really
Well,
do.
right, because the intention from the beginning was to have the cake baked, and now the
Yeah.
cake's baked, and you're like, "What do you mean it's baked? What do you mean it's already baked?" But when your intention from the beginning was, "I'm getting to a baked cake," right? So, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's such a good perspective shift to say, "Well, if that is true, if I'm on the last 2 days of my vacation or whatever it is, yeah, what do I wanna do? I wanna enjoy that this is this time and not the beginning time. I wanna enjoy that I've gone to that same restaurant 3 times. I pass it every time on the cruise or whatever,
Yeah.
It's like now I can enjoy the fruits of my labor. Yes, this is
Yeah.
such a really good point.
But then you also then brought up a like, what feeling do I want? Right. So, like, part of it is I want to enjoy all this work, this culmination. And that might be like at the end of the vacation or the end of summer. Like, I want to enjoy everything I've put in here. And a friend of mine said to me that, like, what is it when after a vacation, for example, what are the things that come to mind when you think of your past vacation? Those are the things that you end up holding in your memory. And it's sometimes like funny
Yes.
things, like some things are big. You're like, I did this amazing helicopter tour, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, wow, of course you'd. But then
Never
it's
gonna
just
forget it.
like this random hike that wasn't planned that, like, just turned out amazing. And you're like, you can't plan for it. And so part of this period is I'm thinking back to the last 3 years and I was like, okay, what things stick out to me? And I value so much from the past 3 years, or even if I'm on vacation, what things have really been amazing on this vacation? And in these last few days, how do I bring that back in again?
Oh,
Right,
right.
like, how do
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
reinforce that or experience that again?
yes.
And, it's like these, like, random things of just the other day, we drove over to the other side of the island together, and it was, like, 2 hours in the car, and I was like, "That was awesome." Like, how do I create that again? Like, I should try and find opportunities for those moments that really stick out for me, because I don't wanna come from a scarcity mindset, a greedy mindset for this last year of, like, gotta get it all in, but I also wanna be mindful of it is a limited time, so what do I wanna do with my limited time?
Mhm.
Like, what do I don't wanna create franticness, like, I don't wanna
No.
create and I also don't wanna be like, we only have this much time left," like, I don't wanna do that either.
Right.
What I wanna bring in is the things that and I guess the cool I like, when I'm saying this, I'm like, I should ask him,
Yes.
"What is it?"
Collaborative,
Like
yes.
yeah, like,
That's
what
such a good
things
point.
stick out for the last
Yes.
3 years? And on
Mhm.
family vacations, we're like, "We need to do this," and you're like, "Wait, what
Yes.
if I
Especially
stopped on
the
my family
moms. The moms are
vacation?"
like, "The list is this. We're gonna go this.
Yeah.
We have this excursion and this hike," and yeah.
Totally. But then ask the whole crew, like, "Okay, what's been memorable to you, and how do we do
Yes.
something like that again?" And I'm thinking now with my son that, like, that's what I need, and that's what I wanna create in this last year, and as summer ends, like, what has been memorable in my summer? And a lot of it is, like, gathering with people that I love, and I just did that on Saturday, and I was like, "Oh, it just brought so much joy to me."
Right.
Um And so I know these things, but taking a moment to look back and understand what those are, like to your question, what is it you want to create?
Right,
And
and to your point also, because what what makes me happy is when other people are happy. I'm happy too, of course, right? But especially when you're talking about your kids or your spouse or, people who are close to you,
Mhm.
it it and even having your friends over the weekend, I'm sure it makes you happy to see them over enjoying themselves happy, right? So when you're talking about that as a collaborative effort, and I was just being reminded of having my oldest and my youngest just recently together on a little kind of excursion trip, and I can tell you what they would both say they remembered. I can definitely tell you because we all went to dinner together, we all got dressed up, we all went to dinner together, and then we went back to the hotel and we changed, and then we went out on like what my daughter would call a side quest. We went on a side quest all around this town, just walking around, and then we ended up on this, like, little kind of park bench. It was all safe, just everyone no one freak out. But yeah, but then we ended up there, and it was a special moment for me, and they both said the same thing. They're like, "This is really nice. Like, this is really, really nice because, what are the chances like that?" And that was the last day of our vacation. Right? That was the last night of our vacation. Incidentally, we didn't plan that. That wasn't an excursion. It wasn't anything like that. But to see them happy and to recall where we were physically, which is another element of this, right? Because it
s-
just, I think about times when even in the recent past, have had, like a girlfriend, like, oh, let's go grab dinner. That sounds great. And I had a girlfriend who texted me, she's like, "Oh, I have a reservation at X and, my husband can't go or whatever. So if you're free and you want to do something like that." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds great." And I went and I thought, you know what? I'm going to remember this dinner so much because it wasn't just um, let's go grab whatever, let's go grab a coffee. And I would remember having seen her, but I wouldn't remember a whole contextual event. And this is your point about the feeling, because when you go and you make a deal out of it, and you like actually get dressed up and I mean, you and I don't know, I might even do my hair, this would be like the biggest deal ever, right? I might, I might even like do something to
what's
my
that about?
exactly. We don't know. That's why I'm cracking up. You and I don't know a lot about this, but, maybe I would do, I don't know, do a little something with my hair, maybe put some mascara on. But even doing that prep, it adds to the memory. It adds to that whole thing, walking into that restaurant, being at a high level restaurant instead of just like, your neighborhood restaurant, which all has its place too. But that it all brings up the relevance of what do you wanna create? What's going to be, the memory, just like, when they have even the kids in high school or whatever, if they win like a big championship or something like that, it's still embedded in your memory if you're part of one of those teams or you're part of, whatever, I don't know, Model UN or mock trial or whatever people do and they win something or they're, under a lot of pressure or they're in a big setting, they go off to DC to do or whatever, all that all that is relevant. And that's I'm in thinking about my girlfriend with her vacation, should I spend an extra day at the beach or which is an amazing beach where they're going. It's not like going to, a little bit. It's a really big earth and in the world of beaches, this is phenomenal. But should I spend another day there or go and have, another experience? And it really is what do you want to remember it differently? Do you want to have a different memory, or not? And that memory can be so simple, like just sitting there on that bench, having done a side quest with my two kids, just having gone to dinner with a girlfriend to go to an elevated, restaurant that we wouldn't necessarily think of. You know what I mean? Just the two of us. But you would go with your spouse, but you don't think about
Yeah.
going with your girlfriend. I just texted my other girlfriend. I was like, hey, by the way, I just did this because she had this reservation and we should really do that. We should really think
Oh,
about that because it was so special. It's just
yeah.
like it just created an ambiance for the whole memory of that experience. So, yeah, I think we're speaking all about that because, how you can't bottle time, right? You can't, like, set it aside, and it's not over till it's over, right? And then even when it's over, it's beginning something new, which is also super exciting because you don't wanna rush that either, right? In that little space of ending and beginning, you don't wanna rush like, "Oh, well, let's just move off to, like, get all your dorm stuff ready and get everything organized," and no, you wanna be, like, enjoying every little last minute.
Yeah, you're so true, so true. So it's not just the shared moment, it's the environment too, right?
Mhm.
It's and
Physical.
how that
Yeah.
all creates something unique. And um yeah, this is really helpful for me because, even we can look at the same topic in many different layers and the way
Yeah.
and we live life. And, I've been using the example of my son, but there's also like this idea of like, my mom is in her mid 80s. And I'm just like, okay, well, I want to like enjoy, like, I want to make sure I get the most out of these healthy years for her because she's getting older. She's fine, but I can see that she is aging like she is because that's the process
That's
that
the
she's in
reality.
with the stage that she's
Yes.
in. But then I was like, well, why do I like it shouldn't be the scarcity mindset again. Right. And to apply what we've just talked about, it's like, okay, what are the memories we've created that stick out and that make a difference. And we usually have these like, weekly family dinners. And this time, it was just her and I for this one. And I said, well, come on up. We'll have a late dinner, a summer dinner. And I was like, can you help me with like, I'm dehydrating some fruit. And she was like, yeah, I'm happy to. And we just sat there and talked while we were, doing that project. And I was like, I should do more of these moments with her
Yeah, that's
of
so
like,
special. Yeah,
we both love to cook
totally.
and we both share that passion and we both love to feed people and all of that stuff. And it's like I live in a place that tropical fruit is plentiful. I'm always doing something with some tropical fruit, right?
It's
Like
almost too
dehydrate,
plentiful.
yeah, dehydrating, freezing, freeze
Yeah,
drying, like whatever. I'm doing it, like
right,
I'm pitting it, keeling it. I don't know. There's always something to go after here. And so I'm like, why not have her up here, at my house, just next door to hers and just and spend time with her that way
right,
because it doesn't have to be always just around the family dinner table. Like what are the
right,
things
or
that we
it's
can
set
share?
time. Yeah, or like,
Yeah,
this is happening because it's your birthday, or this is happening because it's that.
true.
I think about
Right.
your example a couple weeks ago when we were talking about, the whole crowd just walking down to the beach, and I was thinking when you were saying that, I was like, "Oh, how neat would it be for you all to, like, pack up your little picnic lunch and go down to the beach and, like, have dinner there," right? Just to, enjoy like, you would remember that, like, sitting
Mhm.
there this beautiful dinner in front of that beautiful ocean and that whole setup. It's, very cool. I mean, to talk about the physical aspect of it, like, that would be
True.
so memorable. So, yeah, I think the urgency thing is something to be cognizant of, especially when you're on a tightrope of time, whether that's with with the kids or with the vacation or with your aging parents or whatever this ourselves. I feel it myself too, it's like I mean, one of the other things that I I find stretches out the time is, for me, it's reading. Like, I love to read, right? And when do I read? When I'm on vacation. When I'm on vacation. And I really to your point, you're bringing this up for me, right? In terms of having that be of a fulfillment in a variety of ways. I read when I'm home, but I don't reward myself. It's I really am like, "Oh, I did so much admin work today. Maybe I can just, like, read a couple of pages," like, right? Instead of saying, you know, "The summer's coming to an end. There aren't that many moments that I can go sit out at the beach without a tundra jacket on because it gets cold by the water, and that's in the winter. It's still amazing, it's still beautiful, but to have, light until whatever time, 8 o'clock at night or whatever, take my book down there, put my little silencing headphones on and read. Would I remember that, Rach? 1,010%. I would so remember that, right? And would I remember that extra bill I paid? Would I remember that? No, but and I wouldn't even remember that I necessarily was like capturing time from the summer, but I would remember that that's when I did it because that's the physical place, that's the physical time. All those things go together, and then I would remember that that was the book that I was reading. All those little kind of mental encapsulations, if you will, would be relevant. And this is what we keep getting to, it's the intentionality, like the intention. What is your intention? What are you trying to create? How is that special for you? And all of those elements. Yeah, I think it gets back to like you feel like you have to have an event or have a reward for yourself or have something to do. And your example about just being chill with this last year of high school and just enjoying it as a year of high school, not like rush, 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 rush. I remember my parents were just like, "Oh, it's such a special year, and it's such a special year." I didn't feel any different because I was really couldn't wait to get out of high school and get on with my life. I was like, "Oh, when is that?" But for them, of course, because they have this baked cake that they're enjoying, for that last year. So yeah, I think this is it's important conversation because it sounds like, oh, it's not really one thing. But of course, it's not one thing. But when we talk about even embarking on our season two, it's an important message for me as I'm listening to this whole conversation, right? The important message is it doesn't have to be like, oh, this is the beginning of season two. We need to do something different. We need to have this whole new shtick, or we need to have this big theme, or we need to, just set up the episodes differently or anything like that. It's like, no, we can be very intentional as we have been and continue to be, and we can be, evolving even more and taking our growth to the next level and the next level by implementing so many of the things that we talk about like on the daily, and then it's just you know charging ourselves to it. The other thing that I think is really relevant to kind of pause time, if you really are interested in pausing time, is I shouldn't admit this, but I don't journal, Rach. I don't journal. But I do write a lot, right? So I'll write a card to someone, or I'll write, I just did it today, right? I'll write a little note to someone, I'll put it in the mail. They still mail those letters, Rachel. I know that nobody knows this. I think it's like one of these secrets.
Oh
So
my
one of these
gosh.
secrets is that you could still drop actually a card in the mail and it'll still get there sometime to that other person. But having that like documented is also, like, a really nice way, and in some of my books, I'll write, like, "I finished this on this date," and I'll write, like, one little sentence about it, like, "Loved it here," "Finished it here," I'll leave it at another, at a random place, a random hotel somewhere around the state or the world or whatever, and then that is just a way of marking, like, "I was here. I did this here," my life matters in some small way right here.
Oh, wow, that's a really cool thought of just, some for somehow, some way marking the moments.
Yeah.
Even we know that, when we write things down, it has a different effect than just thinking them. And
Mhm.
so, just jotting those words down, and it's funny because I just wrote a card the other day and I was like, "Oh, it's so nice to like write a card," and it is a special activity, and it's a piece of you that you put in there, and writing the words, they're actually written like they carry a different value. They carry forward. They
Yeah.
don't just go out into the ether. But even the word spoken doesn't go out to the ether. The energy's with it, and like it stays there with the person that hears it. Like it can have great impacts. But there's another layer to writing it because it's actually physically there.
In there. But try this
Yeah.
one on. So as you're going through your last year, what if you take a little notepad? Remember when our kids were little and they had their first word or their first, and it's in my kitchen still. And I just have this little notebook and I know I'm like, I'm never going to write one of these big, massive baby books. But I just need to get these little things down. So I would write just like little, like honestly, two sentences, like nothing but, so and so did this today and this was really funny. And we went here and they loved this little toy and they didn't stop playing with it, or da 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 da. That's available to you in this last year, right? You just came home from school today. You were exhausted. You did all this. We talked about that. And I just loved seeing this about you. Or I loved how you presented this. Or I loved how you were so animated talking about that. Or you were so grumpy with me about that. And it's funny to me because,
Yeah.
and laugh later too. Right. So, even something like that, Rach, just carries a lot of power because it, it honors the time that's there, right? And it also gives it meaning in the future. And that's not just like, oh, it's all this nostalgia thing. What I love about the tech today is that people can record, videos of themselves, whatever, doing whatever. I mean, I have tons of my kids when they were little, just like sitting in front of the computer when computers were like, it was like almost a new thing that you could record yourself on the computer. And they're so funny. They're so funny because it's like such a novelty for them to like see themselves on the computer and record it and all that stuff. It's the same thing. You could just do a video, like a video, yearbook that's yours, rather than like the one that you get from high school. That's like the gift that you have as a mother of
Mhm.
just like the back and forth. It would be cool to do it. You write yours, he writes his. You're probably not going to get that, but you could get the part of just those seemingly incidental, inconsequential moments now take on, some kind of life because there's a documentation of it. And there's documentation of how you're feeling about it and how you're interpreting him in that situation at this age, at this, point in time in his life. And you think like, how cool would that be? If I had something like that from my parents, and I mean, I have cards and letters and stuff like that, which is so special, but if you had, even the greater extension of that, it's just neat, It's
I mean,
just it's neat to think about stuff like that.
I love that idea. And I think, there's some big things that are happening for him. And it's like every month there's something big that's happening, whether it's an official visit to a university or a big
Yeah.
tournament or, like getting a car, like all of these big events are happening. And I was like, it's true. I want to record them for him because it's a big year. There's a lot.
Mhm.
And he's making some of the biggest decisions he's ever made in his life are going to happen this year up till this point.
Right.
There are gonna be bigger
Yeah.
decisions down the road, but these are the biggest that he's made yet. And so it's like he's, like, trying it on now. He's, like, doing his
Mhm.
big stuff, and yeah, I love that idea of doing some kind of recording or something for him that documents this time and the cool things, whether it was like going prawning the other night and catching
Right.
prawns and making them for dinner, or getting a car, or official visit to a university, or like all of these things. I think this year is going to be filled with some awesome, exciting things,
Yeah.
and a way to capture it. I would love, and I think he would enjoy at some point. Yeah,
Yeah,
great
and
idea.
maybe not, right? And that's the letting go part of it, right? But it's like but then how are you gonna feel, like, having something like that, or how are you going to feel letting that be? Because that's some bit of a closure, that's
It
some bit
is
a way to put some closure on that, the whole
this
idea of high
chapter.
but this whole chapter, yeah,
Yeah,
of,
because it
when you're
is.
it is, and when your kids go off to college, it's a whole different that's just a different life, and then when they get to the end of college, I can tell you from where I am, that's a different life, but it made me think because when, I had my very first baby born, my OB did that for me, and she wrote there was like, I think I'm gonna cry. It was, like, the nicest thing that anyone who didn't have to, like, not my parents or whatever, like, did for
Mhm.
me, right? So, when you have a baby, like, you're busy having that baby. You're not really, like you're trying to focus, but you can't really, like, focus, and so, yeah, after, like I don't know if it was just, like, our first meeting after me when she came in the hospital, and she just gave me this little, like, manila envelope, and it was all his little story of birth, and it wasn't
Uh,
long, it wasn't, like, 5 pages, it was, like, one little page that she had just written up. I don't know, maybe she does it for everyone, like, if she does, it's freaking amazing, but, she just described, like, "You were so brave, you were so strong, you did this, you did that, and then you said this," and then this little baby comes out, and, my son happened to be, like, looking right at her when he came out. It was, like, scared her, just like, "Whoa, this kid's alive, and he's got something to say." But having something like that, wow, you think it's the end of a pregnancy and it's the beginning of, something very very new, and there's this and I go back to that, time and time again just to remember, because you
Sure.
can't live it, right? So you can just
Right.
have that, like you're saying, generating those feelings and generating that time because there is such a tendency just to rush through life and just like, just it goes and it goes and the time goes and the time goes and the time goes and then you're like, oh wow, where'd that vacation go? Oh wow, where'd that go? Where'd my kids in high school go? Where'd my career go? Right? Like, think about that. You work your whole life, or you work in all these different jobs, or you do all these. How many projects have we done? How many proposals have we made? How many PowerPoints have we made? Right? And they all just get meshed together if you don't have a way. I think that's probably why people like getting awards and stuff. It's just like a way to say, like, I'm amazing, right? I'm something that I could say for this, but just, yeah, different ways to kind of think about how to make this time continuous while also honoring the beginning, middle, and the end.
Mhm. For sure. Yeah. It is, it's exciting, and part of me, it's this interesting period of it, and I've had this on vacation too. This is a curious thing, is, I love traveling just like you do,
Yep.
I and at the end of a trip, people are like, "Oh, so sad it's gonna end," and I'm like, "Never sad it's ending because I get to come
Oh.
home here."
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah.
Right? And I was like,
This is
"Oh,
a
I'm so
really
excited to
yeah,
go home?"
right.
And I kind of feel the same way about my son's last year in high school. I'm like, "Oh, like, it's coming to an end," but I am so excited to see what he's gonna do next. Like,
Mhm.
there's not a part of me that's, like, grasping on this year, being like, "I need to slow like, I'm like, he's like, we've gone through all the motions. But the other piece of it is and not that I'm wishing this year away, but I'm also, like, so excited at the end of this year. I'm like, "Well, I'm so excited to see what next chapter is gonna be like." Like, I
Yes.
cannot wait, and it's the same feeling I get at the end of a vacation where I'm like, "My vacation's coming to an end. It's been awesome, fast, long, whatever it is, and I get to go home, and I'm so excited to be home, like,
Right.
like, be
To
back
put
in my
in
place
your own
that I love to
bed and
live."
yeah.
Yeah, and, like, my people and my community and this glorious place I get to live in and all of these fleet things, I'm like, "Wow, I'm so lucky." So it's kind of a cool experience for me when I do come to these endings because it isn't like the sadness, it is,
Right.
like, the statement of, like, "Wow, and then,"
Yes.
this is
And yes,
next.
and.
Yeah. Yes,
The
and
I'm
next.
gonna follow you with a little story that it's one of my favorite stories, and it's so apropos to Grateful Not Greedy, like, so, like, right on the money and goes right with what you're just saying. I have a friend who I hope won't mind me sharing the story, um, a friend who shall remain nameless, insert random person here. Very sadly, their dog was, going to pass away, right? And, we all if you've gone through that, it's like a very sad thing, and she was really worried about her kids. And they were, younger at the time, and she was really worried about, how are they gonna take this, and how is she gonna explain it, deal with it, whatever. And, so they have the sweet little dog, and she goes to tell her kids, like, "Okay, well, this is what's happening, and, Sparky's gonna, move on to the next phase of this, and, then this is what's gonna happen." And, I don't whatever religion you are, this is just how they express it, they're Christians. So, she's like, "Mom, you mean he gets to go and see the king?" And then she's like, "Sparky, you get to go and see the king," right? And it's like the best story, right? Because you're like,
Mm.
whether you believe there's a king or you believe there's it's like there is the possibility that what's coming next could be even more uh, momentous than what you're in right now, right? Or it could, it could be any version of it, it just is grateful, not greedy, right? Grateful that life goes on in any way. Life goes on. Grateful that life goes on because that gives us more opportunity to see it differently, have another experience, continue on the same way, have a little blip here or there, whatever. But if you can look. whatever. Say Elvis is the king, and say you're a massive Elvis fan, and your dog gets to go and see the king, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is so exciting, you get to go see the king." So on any given day, right, we can all say, "But, this might be coming to an end, but tomorrow we might be able to see the king," right? We're going to see the king, whatever your king is, whatever that means for you, whatever metaphor you wanna apply there, because that's true, that gives the life is even in death, it's possibility. Right? Because
Nice.
your life changes even as you're encompassing like a death. I've gone through this, you've gone through this. Even as you're encompassing that, your life has more possibility and not more like better, just more different. It
Mhm.
changes. Everything changes in a way. And so much of that is the perspective in that moment of allowing the end to be a new beginning, of whatever beginning that is. So if Sparky's we're gonna lose Sparky here in this little moment, being so happy for Sparky that, he has the chance to go and see the king. And you think of it from a like a little kid standpoint, and they're so fantastical and everything's like so amazing and, moonbeams and unicorns, but also so insightful because that's true. That's true. Sparky does have the chance to go and see whatever version of the king that you have. Sparky has the chance to do that.
I love that story. That is, so appropriate because usually the ending is actually the beginning, right? And there's there the piece that I always love is, like, there's no way to make room for something new and bigger until you get rid of something old, and you have no idea, and it's sometimes hard to let go of that, and sometimes, like, you're grasping or it's just, like, kind of like, part of a part of you that's still hanging on there, but as soon as you can shed that, or make space or let go of it or end a vacation or, start a new chapter, whatever it is, there's space for something bigger
Mhm.
and, different and new. And, I think, as we wrap up our time today, it's like it's a beautiful kind of all the way circle around back to the beginning is the grateful, not greedy is like the greed is wanting to hold on to everything, to not
True.
have anything change and evolve. And the grateful part is grateful I've had this opportunity to do this. Like grateful I get to be my, Dax's mom. It's like best thing I've
Yes.
ever done and like the hardest thing and the most rewarding thing. And I'm also really excited to see what happens next,
Yes, and for you
and
as well. But right,
absolutely,
for you as well,
absolutely.
you don't know, and I think what's really helpful in what you just said and as it's coming to me is reminding ourselves that we can hold 2 thoughts at the same time.
Yes.
We can be, sad that it's over and happy that it's beginning. We could be, happy that it's over and sad that it's beginning. Whatever. You can hold 2 thoughts at the same time, and each of those has a place, and be grateful for each of those thoughts. No judgments, no worries about what that thought is, just
Yeah.
allowing it to be 2 thoughts at the same time. And for us now, it's like we're so grateful we had season 1 and and
Yes.
still so grateful we have season 2, right? So grateful that we can continue on and do season 2. So grateful that we've been able to accomplish so much. For me, just personally, I've grown as a human in having this experience with you. So it's just being allowing ourselves to be in that space of duality, with the
Mhm.
beginnings and the ends and the ongoing. So you can be really grateful that you have a senior year and also really grateful and excited that you're gonna have another year after that, some other kind of thing. And then with whatever happens within that time is up to you and up to your own intention, which is the other piece I think that's really relevant in this conversation is what's the intention? How do you want to remember it? How do you think you'll want to remember it? And you're such a good point about being in conversation with other people who are part of that process. How
Uh,
do you want it? Like how is this going to be memorable for you, right? Like how is this going to be an experience that we can both share? So, yes, love
yeah.
it.
I definitely don't wanna make this year about me and trying to, like, insert me into this year. I wanna make it about, it's it's his experience. I'm bearing witness to it. Like, I
Mhm.
get to
Yes.
like,
Yes.
that's the key. It's not about me, and I see, people insert themselves, and they're like, "I gotta get in here."
Yes.
And I'm like, I wanna stay here to see it, to bear witness to it, but also to honor it for him.
This is great.
Yeah.
That's a great final
And
message too, because that's a letting it be what it is gonna be and not controlling it and not, yeah, asserting yourself into making it something it's not, or making it something that you want it to be rather than what it just is through his own volition. So, yeah, love it. Okay, Reach, here we are. We are Wild and Wonderful season 2. Congratulations. I'm so happy we made it. I wanna thank all of everyone who listens to us on any given day, whether it's the beginning of the episode, the end of the episode, the middle of the episode. We're grateful for all of it. We can hold all the space for that in all due time, beginning, middle, and end of episodes, the shorts, in any way that you've listened to us and supported us. We're really exceedingly grateful, and like, subscribe, comment, all that goes a long way to continue to provide this content for you, which we, are grateful to do and we love doing. So, welcome to season 2, episode 1. That's a wrap, and this has been, is, and forever will be the Grateful Not Greedy podcast, and aloha, Rach.
aloha, Chris.